Welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Podcast, hosted by CRM technology and sales process expert Christopher Smith, talking with sales leaders that have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. Listen to find out how the best of the best achieve success with their team and CRM technology. And remember, unless you are the lead dog, the view never changes.
Welcome to Sales Lead Dog. My guest today is Steve Scherer of CCB Technology. Steve, welcome to Sales Lead Dog.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I hope it goes well. If it doesn't,
sure
you got a bunch of other great episodes, so people can.
It's going to go great. So, Steve, you're the VP of Sales and Marketing at CCB. What does CCB Technology do? Tell me about the.
It's a great question. So, what we do now has the same heartbeat that it did over 30 years ago, but what people pay us for has changed a lot over that 3+ decades span. So initially, we got our start with serving just 501c3 nonprofits in the IT space for discounted software through Microsoft. And now we're known nationally as one of the top 250 outsourced IT providers. So protecting in layman's terms, we make sure that there's somebody to pick up the phone to answer questions when something goes wrong in your IT environment. That's us. We keep bad guys out from hacking your data, phishing emails. We do trainings for employees. So data backups, cybersecurity, and help desk is the three big buckets. And then long-term management. If people need co-management of their IT environment, we help with that as well. But our heartbeat stayed the same. It's on the wall, actually, outside my door here. Still says serving those that serve others, and that's been the lifelong heartbeat of the company.
Yeah, that's awesome, because it comes right down to it. If we're selling right, we're serving others.
That's right.
So in reality,
I think so.
Yeah, you're serving everybody if we're doing it the right way.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask a quick question about the company. What do you guys see today? I know things have changed a lot with technology, with AI, and just all there's just so much happening that's very dynamic in the market right now. What are you seeing right now? Like, why are people reaching out to CCB and saying, "Hey, we need help"?
Good question. I think it depends on the person themselves or the organization itself. Primarily, though, if it was one big bucket, what's the most that people are asking about? It's security. And that can hit AI, or that can hit cyber insurance, or that can hit phishing emails or fraudulent texts. But it's a lot to do with security. And then it stems into these other things that people wanting their data to be protected. And how do I make sure that my employees don't click on the wrong thing? And what if they do? What happens? But primarily, people are reaching out to us about security, and they want somebody that they trust. And so we have a legacy, but when people don't know us, we have to prove it. So we give them statistics and that kind of thing. But then if we zoom in a little bit more below just the security things that people are asking about, a lot of nonprofits are reaching out to us because of our legacy, our history, our knowledge of nonprofits, and being able to work within their budgetary constraints and cycles.
Yeah. I love that you guys are focused on nonprofits. That's a segment I'm particularly passionate about, just because anything we can do to help them. They're all struggling with budgets, and always, we need more money to operate, and because they're, if they're doing it right, they're spending their money on their constituency, not
That's
themselves.
right.
And so anything you can do to help them, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, we do. In short, even when I was a rep a while ago, I saw it as not just dollars saved, but if I can save them money, sure, that's great. But if I can help them move forward in IT, I know I'm in a roundabout way helping them move forward with their mission.
Yeah.
And that drives me. I'm a mission-minded kind of guy that if the lights are blinking, that's great, but what does it do for you? Well, it helps you have a healthy baby be born, or it helps you deliver water, or it's a blood bank or whatever. That's what I get fired up about. It's not how much throughput a switch has.
Yeah.
That's the stuff, but what is it leading to?
Yeah, 100%. Awesome. So, Steve, when you look back over your career, if you had to boil it down to three things that have really driven and led to your success to get you where you are today, what would those three things be?
Big question. First, it would be other people that believed in me. So putting a name to it or a section header, it would be mentors, a mentorship.
Yep.
I didn't realize there was one guy in particular. I won't tell the whole story. One guy in particular, I didn't realize he was mentoring me until years after we were getting lunches. He's a family friend and one of my growing up, one of my best friend's dads. And it just seemed natural to me. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, oh my goodness, he has my best interest in mind, and starts checking those boxes of the mentorship stuff that you read about on LinkedIn or in books and things like that. And yeah, so mentorship is a huge thing. And so others, I mean,
Yeah.
there's no way I could say I got where I am if people deem me being a success. I can't leave that out. So other people. The second thing I think would be, if you're wanting something that's a little bit more specific to the person, I think my curiosity has gotten me pretty far. Asking questions. I thought it was just like who I was and not anything until other people, like mentors, pointed out, or bosses that I respect, saying, man, you ask good questions. And how did you figure that out? Well, I didn't know what the answer was, so I just asked. And then I think the third thing, I'll tell you what somebody else told me. I did not end up taking this job. I was in an interview process. I didn't end up taking the job. And the guy said, I get it. It's not a good fit for you and your family, but I just want to tell you what I see in you. And then he told me this thing that I'll say, and then multiple people, others, have said it. I give all of that because it feels weird to say this next thing, which I think is authenticity. You kind of you get what you get. I'm not the flavor that everybody's looking for, but I think those three things combined together have really lent themselves to what people might consider success. I'm willing to say no. Sure, there's competitive nature, and I don't like losing and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff too.
Yeah.
But I think those other things really, really lend themselves well to the success of it, of being in the
Yeah.
position that I'm in now. Yeah.
That's awesome. To me, authenticity is just so important,
Mhm.
both in sales, but also especially as a leader.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
like as soon as you lose that with people, that trust, that bond of trust and respect is broken and
That's
damaged.
it.
It's super hard to recover from that.
That's it. I mean, John Maxwell has said lots of things, but one of the things that I latched onto, momentum is very, very easy to lose and very, very difficult to gain. And in what you just said is absolutely true. If trust is the foundation of any really healthy relationship, and you just blow it because you're faking it, that's hard to get back because
Yeah.
momentum's lost. So anyway, I believe it. I'm with you. Yeah, authenticity is a big deal.
Did you always want to be a vice president of sales and marketing?
No, no, no. This position was created last year. So yeah, my dreams came true last year. I can't believe finally they could.
Yeah. So what
No,
was your early dream then?
no, that's good.
When you were just getting started in your career, what was your
Oh,
dream?
and I'm glad you got to put that qualifier. I was gonna say like a helicopter pilot that played baseball on the weekends or something,
Yeah.
as like as a dream when I was a kid or something like that. But in my career,
Yeah.
this is going to be cliche. I just wanted a shot.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I knew I could work.
Yeah.
That wasn't a question. I had multiple jobs. I was paying for school myself, college. I was going to school full time. I knew I could work. So early on in my career, I just needed a shot.
Yeah.
Um, I actually told my wife that. She was a teacher. We're very different that way. She was very put together. She had multiple degrees before I even had one.
Yeah.
And she said, "What do you think about after graduation?" I said, "I just need somebody to give me a chance."
Yeah.
So early on, truthfully, I just wanted to get in somewhere
Yeah.
and
That's awesome.
figure it out.
Your
Yeah.
story is very similar to mine, that like I grew up, my dad told me, I think it was like 14 or 15, like, hey, I have 8 siblings, right?
Okay.
I'm sixth of 9
Oh,
children. And he
yeah.
was like, there's no way I can even help you pay for college.
Mhm.
So start looking for a job as early as you can. As soon as someone will hire you, get a job and start saving up your
Yeah.
money because I expect you to go to college.
Mhm.
And so I it was the same thing. You got to scrap and scramble and work hard. I wasn't afraid of hard work,
Yeah.
and it sounds like that experience has served you pretty well in your career.
Yeah, there's a little bit of desperation early on. I'm not going
Yeah,
to sugarcoat it at all.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I'm at school. University of Wisconsin Parkside is where I was at, and that is just to say that I'm Wisconsin guy,
yeah,
and from a Wisconsin family that parents were going through bankruptcy while I'm in college. And then what do you do?
yeah.
Um,
That's
you know,
brutal.
so I mean, everybody's got their story and their
Yeah,
origin story and their backstory. Mine's not worse than everybody else's. I just know that you're right. It served me well, but not in the sense of giving me a vision of ultimately I want this title.
yeah,
I never really cared, even now. Like if
yeah,
my title changes, but the function of what I'm doing is clear of how I bring value to people, that builds me up.
yeah,
That energizes me. Early on, I would have said, just give me a chance.
yeah.
Now I would say something completely different, which is, because of experience. But yes, that
That's
little bit
awesome.
of desperation, that little bit of moving forward, that it has served me. Scrappiness or resourcefulness or whatever you have to do when you need to make some money.
Oh, yeah. So thinking about when you got your first job in sales,
Yep.
how much of you was excited? How much of you was scared to death?
So I'll be as succinct as I can, but 90% of me was excited. Um,
That's good.
uh, but that's 90% of me that's excited because the other 10% was my wife. And I am optimistic. I don't
Yep,
see where the problem's going to happen. I'm like, look, I'm stepping in the batter's box. I got the bat. Either I can hit or I can't, but I'm
yep,
going to swing really hard. And my wife is not built that way, which is, there's other things, but we're very different that way, like I
yeah.
said before. But my earliest sales experience was actually selling Jolly Ranchers um, when I was in like seventh grade.
You're
So I
not the
didn't,
first person who's shared a
okay,
similar story selling
like I
candy in
didn't have
school.
dreams of being in sales or anything. It was
Right.
just like my parents didn't have a lot of extra money. If you want
Yeah,
extra stuff, figure it out, kind of. They weren't
yeah,
harsh about it, but it's just what it was. So I
yeah,
went with my dad to Sam's Club and we bought a bag of Jolly Ranchers and I added up what would it cost for 10 cents a piece. No one taught me any of this stuff. I just was
yeah,
trying it. I was very excited. I was 0% nervous.
yeah,
And I figured out I could make 15, $16 a bag if I sold them at that thing. And that's the first thing. But when it really, really mattered was when, you got a wife, you got
yeah,
a young kid at home.
yeah.
And that was when I first stepped in to the direct sales role. That was the 10% of my wife. When I stepped into sales leadership as a VP of sales, 6 years ago ish, I was probably 50-50 nervous to excitement, but that had a different weight to it. I felt like these people's families now
Yeah.
are dependent on my decisions versus individual contributor versus, kind of directing how this process goes. If I give the wrong goals to people, then what?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
stuff keeps you up.
It's a totally different kind of pressure.
Yeah.
I remember when I hired my first employee, it's like now I'm responsible for this
Right.
person's
Right.
financial well-being.
Yeah.
I can't control what they do with their money, but at least I'm supplying them the money.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's I get it. That's a totally different kind of pressure.
Yeah.
And so yeah. Um, so tell me what was behind your motivation to
Mhm.
accept this VP role and become a sales leader? What were you hoping to accomplish?
Um, good. Just one qualifier, because I want to make sure I'm answering the question right, or as best I can. The VP of sales thing when it was
Or
approached
just
to me,
as
or
your
the
first
VP of sales
sales
marketing.
leadership role?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Um, Other people. Again, it's my two-step, I guess. I didn't realize that. I didn't put notes down about that. It's just, I guess, other people. Somebody noticed something in me. I had my head down. I'm working hard. I got a shot. Okay, finally,
yeah,
I got a shot. I'm going to provide for my family. And then somebody taps me on the shoulder and is like, man, you might be able to do really well. The sales team is listening to you.
yeah,
What do you mean? I'm not really. See, you have influence. Oh. And then again, John Maxwellism, leadership is influence kind of a thing. But at that time, I wouldn't have put it that way. So
mhm,
someone else tapping me on the shoulder and saying, you might have what it takes here. Think about this. Me asking questions. Uh, what does that mean? What's expected of me? What does success look like? What are the goals? How would that change? One of the last things that I remember to ask about is money. I just figure money's going to come
Yeah.
if you do a great job. So yeah, what motivated me, I guess beyond the tap on the shoulder to actually take the position, is I really like the bringing of people together and moving them towards something for their good and the good of an organization. But again, I wouldn't have said it back then. I just knew I liked working with people. I understand ish the sales stuff. That person whose job depends on me doing well above me is saying, I think you do well. So they have some, skin in the game. Let's try it.
Yeah.
So I didn't have some grand idea of this is what I should do, this is whatever.
Right.
Practically, I went to someone else who's in HR. He's a buddy of mine. He's still in HR. Asked him what he thought, and he said, I think it's a great idea for you to move from direct sales into sales management, back and forth, get as much exposure to the business as possible. That'll make you even more influential a couple moves from now. And there's wisdom in that. I
Oh,
went,
yeah.
and
That's
then
good
now I'm able
advice.
to leverage that with people that I'm in. Oh, I've been here before. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
problem we'll get through together, kind of a thing.
So tell me, I think one of the big things that people underestimate early on in their first leadership role is the understanding that you have to develop your identity, your personal identity as a leader.
That's right.
Tell me about how you did that in the early days as a leader, how you established that early identity, and how has your identity evolved as your role has evolved over the years?
That's good. I love this stuff. So cut me off. That's what I'm
Okay.
trying to say. Because when I get excited,
Clock is ticking. Go ahead.
So cut me off. Early on, how did I, well, not to get preachy, my job is a portion of who somebody would describe me as. But again, not to get preachy, I felt like when I stepped into this role, I was pretty solid in, so I'm a Christian, and I have priorities based on what I say I believe. And then mentors, like coming back to that again, saying to me, well, you need to figure out what you're willing to not do. What does that mean? Well, talented people get squeezed. What do you mean? Well, you're going to be working a lot. If you're doing a good job, you're going to be working a lot, and there might be money tied to it, but there's purse strings. So figure out who you are, what you're not willing to do, what you're not willing to sacrifice for your family, and then make your decisions based off of that. That's interesting. So early on in my leadership, I wanted to extend that to other people by asking them the same questions. And so the fast forward, how it's evolved, it's tied to that. But I had another person, a friend of mine, say, have you ever thought about what you want your life to be defined by a decade from now? And I said, I don't know if I've ever heard that question strung together that way before. What do you mean? Again, this whole same song and dance of me asking questions. And he said, what would you want somebody else to describe you as 10 years from now? Have you thought about that? Oof, I don't know. So that spent me down this road, and as succinct as I can be, without even talking to him, I just started chasing that rabbit, early mornings, quiet time, thinking through, man, I got to the point of saying, what do I want my kids to describe me as? What do I want my wife to describe me as? What do I want, and where I landed, and this is what has shaped me as my role has evolved, I've needed to be more specific about who I am, because who I am drives my priorities.
Yeah.
And then my priorities drive the decisions that I make, and the decisions that I make drive the results that I see. What bad stuff happens when I start with results and don't know who I am and trust isn't established. Bad things happen. You get all out of whack, and 5 years later, you're never seeing your kids, but you're super successful in your job. So I identified my top 5 things. So I called them my top 5 for 10, because it was 10 years and that, not that smart.
I love that.
So God, family, church, outdoors, and work, in that order.
Yep.
And I started telling people that, and come to find out, a lot of people benefited from that guy asking me that question and then me telling them that. And so I started doing that with my team. So how has my identity shifted? It shifted to knowing, okay, this is what my life is about.
Yep.
My life is about these 5 things. So how do these 5 things, are they lined up? And then I could use that as a test for Beth, how my wife's name is Beth. Beth, how am I doing?
Yeah.
Um, One cool side note is um, I was saying it enough apparently that my oldest heard me talking about it and he said, "Oh, I know what those are." I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I know what your five," and at that time he was like 10. "I know what your five things are." So what are they? And he said it. He said them out of order, but he said the
Yeah.
five things.
Yeah.
And so I think that identity has helped again shape how I prioritize things, where my time goes.
Yep.
Um, Money comes and goes, cars come and go. Your time is gone.
Yep.
And so that has had a ripple effect on other things. So more people that find out about how I structure my life, I'm not the best at this, I'm just a guy. The more they realize I try to take this seriously
Mhm.
to the point of saying no to really good things so that I'm not just a yes man on the things that I know I have the capability to do, but I don't have the capacity to do because now I'm squeezing out the top three things for the bottom two or something.
Yeah.
In my office, you won't be able to see it over there. The only thing that's hanging on the wall over there is a poster, and it has those five things up on top: God, family, church, outdoors, and work.
Yep.
And underneath that is a bunch of dots, and it's from this company, 4K Weeks. I have no association to anything with them,
Yeah.
but basically 4,000 weeks is what you got. Live your
Yeah.
life, and each week I have to fill in one of those dots. And so it's essentially a death poster. That's all
Yeah.
I, but it's sobering. Every week I come in and I fill in one of those dots,
Yeah.
and like, okay, how did I spend my time? Where did my
Yeah.
time? So um,
I love that,
that's
Steve.
well,
I,
that's shaped it. I don't know
yeah.
if that actually answers the
No,
question.
it answers it extremely well. And I
Yeah,
love that you incorporated your faith into your answer. That
yeah.
um, I'm surprised at how many people are unwilling or scared to talk
Hmm.
about their faith
Yeah,
because it is for a good portion of us. It's not
yeah,
everybody, but a good portion of it's a very important thing to who we are. I mean, my faith is incredibly important to me.
yeah,
And like growing up, I would tell my kids, it's like you have to have that center. You have to have that identity of who you are, like you said, that defines who you are,
yeah.
what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do. But I've told them, look, I can trace all the times I've had trouble in my life
Mhm.
was because I strayed away from who I was.
That's right.
And I wasn't able to get that back under control until I acknowledged that
Mhm.
and had to recenter myself and get back to, living between my guardrails that I set up for myself.
That is what that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Um, because what I think would happen to me, since
Yeah.
I have this I've got this competitive nature and I like to succeed and whatever, nobody had to teach me that stuff. If I wasn't surrounded by people that love me enough to say, "You're off," and I didn't care or didn't establish that or whatever about the identity thing, I would chase the results. I
Yeah.
would just naturally go because that's the path of least resistance to me. For me, I want to be a performer, or
Yeah.
now the center of my universe is me, and that's off in my opinion. At the end of my days, I don't want it to be that I was the center of the universe, and so yeah, and to your point, like I don't have a metric or anything of how many people wish they could say something about their faith or not. I agree with you. I think, some people shy away from it because it's a hot topic thing.
Yeah.
But some of the best conversations that I've had are with people that don't believe anything that I believe, and we're
Yeah.
able to just talk.
Exactly. It's like that's the
Like,
thing where I think people have to understand is like, hey, just because I talk about my doesn't mean I'm trying to impose anything on
no,
you.
no.
I'm just
One of
telling
my
you who I
one of my
am.
very best friends is an atheist who I had lunch with 2 weeks ago or last
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
And he says it makes no sense on paper that we're even friends. And I
Yeah.
said, "I know. You know what I'm
That's
standing
to me,
for?"
that's some of my best friends that it's like, hey, I respect you for who you are.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to pose or shift or model you.
No.
I'm gonna live my life, you live your life, and we'll be in harmony.
Yeah.
And that's what matters. And I also love that, thinking about how you want to be described 10 years from now,
Mhm.
that's super important that I think gets short attention or not enough attention,
Mhm.
especially early on in your life. And
Yeah.
I remember I feel glad that I don't know where I heard that from, but I shared that with my kids. I mean, like, when they're first going into high school, my mantra is rule number one is you be nice to everybody.
Mhm.
You have no idea what's going on in their life. You
Yeah.
don't know their stories.
Yeah.
You have no idea. They could be having the worst possible day. You have no idea.
That's right.
And just be nice to everybody. You want to be that person when they think back to high school and they think of you. The first things you want them to say is, my gosh, they were so nice.
Yeah.
Um, that's what
Right.
people will remember,
Yeah.
and they're not going to remember what activities you did or
I
whatever, but they
know.
are going to remember how you treated them.
That's right. How you made them feel versus the things that you said, and that I mean, you're right.
Mm.
To give credit to somebody else that I did not come up with this, but in James Clear's book that sold at this point 7 billion copies or whatever of Atomic Habits, uh, it was reassuring to me that he talks about identity as well.
Yeah.
What would a person who runs do? Oh, they would get running shoes rather than starting with my marathon time's gonna be. No, let's start with your identity and let your actions come out of that. So
Yeah. No, I think that's so
another
important.
point.
And because it's once you're able to establish that identity
Yeah,
and you're able to live by that
right.
identity, you're creating a culture as a leader
That is
within your team. I think
yes.
that's so important.
So my mentor has said the most important things, keep them the most important things. Not the only person to say that, but John has told me, keep the most important things, and let the results be a byproduct of the most important things remaining the most important. So
Yeah.
culture has been a byproduct, and it is a product of lesser value than the main thing.
Yeah.
But the culture on the team, they know that I'm trustworthy because of the way that I've lived my life. I didn't tell them trust me.
Yeah.
I'm saying watch me. So I know there's other things we need to talk about, but I get fired up about this stuff. One of the culture things that I'll say, and I hope people do steal this, it comes just from, again, what I think is important is asking questions. And this question in particular has helped a lot. How would your spouse or significant other describe your role at our company? And do they enjoy that you work here?
Oh man, that's important.
Because once somebody that you love more than anything in life
Yep.
hates where you work, you better start applying other places.
Yeah. No, because it's so important. And it's also like it's your spouse, it's your children, the people in your
That's right.
life that are most important to you. I mean, the times that have shook me up where I again think back to when I wasn't living by my values is when my kids would come to me and they're like, "Are you going to be working tonight, Dad?"
Yeah.
With that just look of expecting disappointment
Mhm.
in the way they asked the question. And
Yeah.
man, that's just like it was a gut punch for me.
Yeah.
That I'm
Yeah.
like, I am out of balance. I need to get back in balance. And
You made an adjustment though. That's
yeah, but
good.
you have to be open to be able to see those and hear those and then act on those. I
Yeah.
think that's it. Could you talk about that part of it in terms of how you formed your identity as a leader?
Say the
Well,
question
what advice do you have someone that you're saying like, figure out who you are,
Yeah, got it.
but what
Great.
advice do you have someone to really be open to feedback in
Yep.
terms of, what advice do you have for someone like that? And
Mhm.
if you find yourself getting into off center, how to come back?
It's good. Couple things. First, I think a huge mistake is to think that you have to have all of the answers regardless of your position or your title. That points to something other than insecurity, or not just what we stereotypically would say insecurity, which rears up in me all the time. Specifically, it points to something I would think is very, very sneaky, which is pride or a lack of humility.
Yeah.
And so, if you want to cultivate humility, I think inviting people in to give you candid feedback is a scary thing
Yeah.
that starts to exercise the muscle of humility and realizing, oh, there's blind spots here. Blind spots are by nature something you can't see. So, how do you cultivate that willingness to be open? You have to go for it. Like what did Brene Brown, she says a lot of things, but one of her things, courage, every act of courage that she studied, 13,000 points of data or whatever, every act of courage is underpinned by vulnerability. What is vulnerability? Taking a step, not knowing the end result. Someone that you trust, that you know you could tell them the hardest thing and they'll still be your friend, even if you're wrong or whatever. Start there.
Yep.
It could be your spouse, could be a friend, whatever, and just let them come with questions and let them answer those questions. Here's why I'm asking this. I want to be better. I want to grow.
Yeah.
If that's not your motivating factor and it purely is, I just want this next paycheck, I don't think you need to demonstrate humility in order to get a bigger paycheck. You can manipulate the heck out of people to get a bigger paycheck. But if you really are motivated, if someone's really motivated by, I want to see growth happen. What are some steps? Start with candid conversations about potential blind spots that you may have. 360 reviews are great. They cost money. You might not have disposable income to do that kind of thing. If you're not familiar with 360 review and somebody's listening to this, in short, it's a personality assessment in so much, but it gives people a view of you all the way around 360. You send it to people you work with, send it to people that you don't work with, your spouse, whoever, and they anonymously answer questions about you, and then you get the feedback.
Yep.
I did that once. It stung, but it helped.
Oh, yeah.
So I would start with aspects of humility and exercising the muscle of getting that feedback and being open to that, because then it won't be as awkward the next time.
Yep.
Also, why? Why are you wanting to do this? I talked about it a little bit, but just putting a point on it. What is your motive? Are you motivated by self-promotion? Are you motivated by a bigger paycheck? Are you motivated? It's okay, but just start naming this stuff. Because if you start, as others have said, like Simon Sinek and others, if you start with that motive or that why, at least you're being truthful about what you're trying to get after.
Yeah.
So if someone's out there wanting to do that, I come back to my number one thing: get somebody from the outside for your success. What is a mentor? Somebody that's a few steps ahead of you in some area of your life. They don't have to be older, but usually they're a few years older. My go-to guy that I talked about before, he's going to turn, I think, 72 this year. He's what I'm shooting for as a dad, and he still plays hardball baseball in senior leagues and things like that. But there's resources on mentorship, but just don't overcomplicate it. Look around, see what somebody's at, and then just ask.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a couple questions, that kind of thing? I think if you start there, that gives you enough to chew on, and then you can go to someone that you haven't met with and say, hey, here's some feedback that I got recently. What do you think about this? So checks and balances. Don't take what one person says as gospel about you and then run with that. I've done that, and that's not a good idea. For example, if John was to say something to me, I'd take it to my wife and say, what do you think about this? Balance. And she might say, yeah, that's true, and this other stuff.
Be ready for the and part.
So that's a lot of words to say. I like analogies. Everybody wants a six-pack. I've told my sales team this a bunch over the years. Everybody wants a six-pack for the summertime. You can download 10,000 different ways to get a six-pack. You still got to do the sit-ups. And so the first sit-ups really, really hurt. I think it's getting candid feedback and then pondering.
And then build those muscles. Transitioning a bit, CRM, do you love it or do you hate it?
I love what CRMs produce. I personally hate taking the time to click a bunch of stuff. It's not too dissimilar from how I feel about mornings. I hate waking up early. I love what the morning produces, though. And I know that I need guardrails. You use the term guardrails. I love that. It's great. It keeps you from ending up in a ditch on either side. So I know a CRM is much like the morning routine and alarm clocks. It's not necessarily what it is that you fall in love with. It's what it produces. So for me, that's again, I didn't write anything down. I'm just gut reaction.
That's fine. What's your biggest struggle, both for you and you think your team, when it comes to CRM?
Putting the information in. Well, for my team, I don't want to have this be reflective of the services team or others, because they're really, really good about putting their time into that. For my team, I would say not having a reminder just go off for that next activity and then snoozing it or closing it out or saying lost. So putting in accurate information in a timely manner.
It's so common.
Stereotypical salespeople. It's just what it is. It's what I still struggle with. I got 800 reminders on my phone right now. So
no, it's insane. And that's why I'm personally not a fan of reminders, because eventually they become white noise. And then it becomes this thing that induces guilt and like, oh crap, I'm not keeping up on these. And you get these negative things. And I'm just not a big fan of those. Because if you're doing any kind of sales, it's fine when you're not doing much volume. But if you're really moving and shaking, you're going to get overwhelmed fast.
Oh, it's a spin out just waiting to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. No,
Unless
totally.
you're hiring an assistant to do it for you, it's never.
Yeah. That's why clients are like, hey, can we get notifications for this? And I'm like, okay, let's think about this for a second. And, and once I talk to them, they're almost always like, yeah, you're right. I never read those emails that come in. Like I see them come in, but I'm like, I don't have time to read that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's where dashboards are. If
Mm-hmm.
you just, let's train them to come to a dashboard or some other mechanism that here's my list of to-dos. I'd rather work off of that.
That's right.
You have to click, deferred, delay, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Snooze.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for.
Or just ignore.
Or just
Altogether,
ignore.
You've got a bunch of
or you just
flags.
ignore it,
Yeah.
and which is usually what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, I get it. We are at our time. This always goes by so sticking fast every single episode. I'm looking at my clock. Steve, if people want to reach out and connect with you, and learn more about CCB Technologies, what's the best way for them to do that?
So for CCB, it would
or
be
yourself.
Yeah. So for CCB, ccbtechnology.com. There's a ton of information there. And then you could find CCB on all major social media platforms as well. LinkedIn is where we have our most influence, largest following and that kind of thing. YouTube included in that social media for CCB. And then for me, I would direct people to LinkedIn, not just because it's easy for me, but I love connecting people to people and people to ideas. It doesn't have to lead to a sale. I promise. I don't hit me. It's just Steve Scherer on LinkedIn. Yeah,
that's great. So if you didn't catch any of that, no worries. We have it in our show notes. You can get that at impellercrm.com/sales lead dog, where you'll get not only this episode, but all our 100+ episodes of Sales Lead Dog. Be sure to check that out and subscribe so you get all our future episodes. Steve, it's been great talking to you. I love today's topic. I think it was just terrific. I really appreciate your candor and sharing.
Yeah.
And welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Pack.
Thank you. Do we howl now? Is this one?
Yeah, you can. I've had some people howl like now that they're in the pack.
As we end this discussion on Sales Lead Dog, be sure to subscribe to catch all our episodes. On social media, follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Watch the videos on YouTube, and you can also find our episodes on our website at impellercrm.com/Sales Lead Dog. Sales Lead Dog is supported by Impeller CRM, delivering objectively better CRM for business, guaranteed.